Hello and welcome to our webinar. I'd like to welcome our listeners around Australia. My name is Joe Tadaro, Advisor Education Analyst at North, and today we'll be discussing a major pain point for advisors and support staff. You know it as reopen accounts. It is a major pain point, and we get lots of questions in the North Service Centre on reopen accounts, especially during the period in which there is an automated process around about this time of year. Lots of questions. So today, hopefully what we want to do is answer all of those questions and arm you with the hints and tips that you need in order to manage reopen accounts at a practice level for you. So if you've joined us before, then you know that you can ask questions at any time throughout today's session. On the left-hand side menu, there is a chat icon. Go ahead and enter your question at any time that you feel free throughout the session today, and we'll endeavour to get back to you then and there via text. But if we're unable to get back to you, then we will send you an email upon the conclusion of today's session. Also, upon the conclusion of the session today, we will be collating all of the questions and answers that you guys out there are asking and then send it out to you along with this presentation pack. So we don't want you to be frantically writing, scribbling information down. We'll send it out to you at the end of the session today, along with all the questions and answers that you guys ask out there, because there may be some questions that you'd ask that you've forgotten to ask that someone will ask on your behalf. So we'll have as much information to get out to you upon the conclusion of the session today. Also today, if you're having some problems with your audio, we'd ask that if you can close your browser and then reopen your browser, and that should fix the issue for you. However, if you're still experiencing technical issues, this session will be recorded as it always is, and then uploaded to North Online for you to reference at another time, or alternatively refer a colleague to it as well. So to show you where that will be, I'm just going to jump onto North Online now. So on North Online, just at the top, we're looking for the support heading and then heading down to training resources. So I'll head to training resources there. Scroll down and we've got a whole lot of videos, small snippets of information for you to watch at any time, but we've got further to that webinar recording. So all of our webinars are uploaded here for you to watch at any time and refer a colleague as well. Also in that support tab, which we'll talk about in a couple of moments time, we've got training resources with step-by-step guides, and fundamental to reopen accounts is news and announcements is where you'll find the most up-to-date information. Also as well on the home screen, if you scroll down, we've got upcoming webinars. So you can register for any upcoming webinars for any topic that you wish. So let's get stuck into today's session. So we're going to start with what we're going to be running through in today's session. So long considered a pain point for advisors and support staff. Today we're going to discuss why reopen accounts occur, because I can hear you screaming through your computers right now. Why do they occur? Can you stop it from occurring? What can we do to manage that? And we're going to be talking about all of these a little bit later on, and how to effectively manage the accounts at a practice level for you. We receive lots of queries around managing reopen accounts when the original instruction moves to pension. We get lots of questions on that. So we're going to talk about this and much, much more throughout today. So let's start with what are the materials and support which is available to you guys out there. So onto North Online, we looked at the support tab right across the top. And we've got the training resources where you can find guides and support guides on pretty much any transactional thing on North Online, the videos that we've discussed, but also news and announcements as well. So into news and announcements. And at this time of year, we will have an article which is uploaded to North Online on the reopen accounts closures and schedule. So ask that you open that up, click for more detail. And once you're in there, there's two support guides that are there for you guys. One is the information guide on reopen accounts, so discussing why they occur, how they occur, and what happens in that process, along with the automated process as well. And we've got a training guide on how to manage them as well. So two great documents that I'd say that you should open and have a bit of a read, especially around about this time of year. So when does it all happen? We'll discuss that a little bit later on, but two key areas is during the time in which the fund does the tax return for super and pension accounts, which is usually earlier in the year. If your client is assessed to have a rebate, so we've assessed the income versus any deductibles within their account, and there is a refund that is owed to them, it will come into the account and reopen an account during that time. The other time of year will be around about early to mid-July, where there is the distribution period, where if accounts have been closed and distributions and dividends are earned within that particular account owed to that account, then it will then reopen that account as well. So two pivotal times in the year in which reopen accounts usually occur. So we've got support tools and training on how to help you manage those, of course. So also you can contact the North Service Centre. North Chat is a really great vehicle for asking questions, because anything that you would call the North Service Centre for, you can chat with a friendly and very knowledgeable North Service Centre consultant. They can ask any questions while you're working as well. So you can type away while you're working, you can get answers to your questions on not just reopen accounts, but any topic on North. So we've spoken about some support material that is available to you. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of reopen accounts as an overview. So why do they occur? So you've got a closed account, you might have account transferred out of that account to another account, withdrawn all of the benefit, gone off to the client, or alternatively rolled out of an account. And it has then closed the account, and the account is closed. And then what happens is the account reopens. And why does that occur? It occurs when residual funds after the closure have been received either from tax refunds that we talked about, or dividends and income distributions. So spoke a little bit about how the tax refunds work. And they're allocated to the account and reopens the account with that residual amount. So let's talk a little bit about dividends and income distributions. So if income is earned within the account during that time, you'll have an ex-dividend date, and the account then closes in between that period. Then dividends must be applied to the account in which they were earned, and that would then reopen that account and allocate the money back into that account. The account, though, doesn't have a status of an active account, and it's no longer closed. It's considered a reopen account, which functions differently to other accounts. So we'll talk about that in a couple of moments' time. So a client's Northern, if residual funds are credited, the status, of course, changes from closed to reopen. And we'll talk about how this differs to different accounts. And reopen accounts, why do they occur? It's because it's a wrap platform as opposed to a master trust. So any residual funds a client may have been entitled to post-closure will be foregone. So with North, we give the money to the client. So it reopens the account and allocates to their account. So now let's talk about how it all works. So reopen accounts don't function like normal accounts. So they can't accept things like contributions and rollovers. They also don't allow switches and rebalances. And importantly, they can't charge fees. So you can't charge advice fees on reopen accounts, and there is no administration fees on reopen accounts as well. So that being said, it doesn't earn any interest in the accounts. So no interest earned. So to close a reopen account, a full withdrawal, rollover, or account transfer must be actioned. So how do you close an account? Like any other account, you get the money out either by a full withdrawal or a full rollover or account transfer, but it must be a full. You can't partially roll out or withdraw from a reopen account. It must be the full amount. So you can't, for reopen accounts, complete partial withdrawals of any kind. So it must be the full amount, and an account transfer from a reopen account into another reopen account. So you can't move monies from reopen account to reopen account, but you can, say in the scenario, you might have a reopen super account, two reopen super accounts, you can move them all into a brand new super account or an existing active super account. Something else you can't do as well is you can't do an in specie transfer. So you can't in specie, more than likely the money will be allocated to the account as cash. You can't in specie transfer as well. So further to that, there's a monthly automated process for reopen accounts, and that is conducted by North. And that is where in that document that I showed you in news and announcements, it'll stipulate how it will all work. Fundamentally, it'll try and pay the proceeds or redeem the proceeds from the account as per the previous instruction. But we'll talk about that in a couple of moments' time anyway. So you can either wait for that reopen process for that to occur, or alternatively, you can proceed with an action on North Online, proceeding with a withdrawal, an account transfer, or a rollover out if desired. So North have that automated process, of course, but you can close it before that if you want to. So these are the rules on that automated process. So reopen it. So further to that, reopen accounts for IDPS or investment accounts. They direct funds as per the last instruction, excluding when previously transferred to a super account. But this is the chart we want to look at. So it would depend on what it is. So we spoke about investment accounts. Let's focus on superannuation. So in all circumstances, we attempt to do this. So for example, super to super. So if the last instruction or the original instruction for the exit was a super to super or super to IDPS, then the transfer is per the previous instruction. But if that doesn't work, so if that doesn't actually work, it'll try to transfer it to an active IDPS or super account. So if it wasn't, so it'll try and do it as per the previous request. And if that account has since closed, so the account it had moved to has since closed for whatever reason, it will then look for an active super or IDPS account. And if that doesn't work, then new instructions will be required. The automated process will not work and the money will stay in that reopen account forever and a day until new instructions have been received. Now let's talk about super to allocated pension. With allocated pension accounts, we'll discuss this at length a little bit later on, but fundamentally, you can't add money to a pension account once it has commenced. So that's the big rules. You can't add money to a pension account once it's already commenced. So what it's going to do is going to try and look for an active super account. And if that doesn't work, then it'll pay to the bank account in which the pension is paid to. And if that doesn't work, new instructions may be required. So there's a big difference between transferring to an allocated pension if the last instruction was to an allocated pension versus a non-commutable allocated pension or NCAP pension account, you might know it as. So what it's going to do, it's going to look for a transfer to an active super account, and then it'll end there. So it'll say, it'll wait for a new instruction to be required. It's not going to pay to a bank account, of course. And then when the last instruction was moving from super to an external fund, it's going to try and roll out as per that previous request, and then it'll stop there. New instructions may be required. And then if the last instruction was paid to the member's bank account, then it will then try and do that as well. It'll try and pay it to the bank account in which the money was previously paid. So if we do that, the money leaves the North account, it closes the account, but then we get notification from the bank, either the client has closed that account with the bank or no longer using that account, or for whatever reason it doesn't work and the money bounces back to us, then it comes back into that account, it reopens again, and then we'll stay there. So for the next automated process for superannuation, if it had been paid to that bank account, it didn't work in the last automated process, then it won't try it again. So the money will just stay there. So to move on to pension. So when it's a pension account, so based upon the original exit, of course, so moving from, say if you move from pension to super or IDPS, it's going to transfer as per the previous instructions. So a key to that is in most cases, it's going to try and do what it did before. But if it doesn't, if it's unable to do that, then it will try and look for an active super account. And if that doesn't happen, then new instructions will be required. So if it's an allocated pension to another pension, then it will then look for a super account and so on and so forth. So the rules are there for you in front of you, and we'll send this pack out to you upon the conclusion of today's session with all of this information. And plus this is all available in that guide as well. So let's continue on. So we're talking about the automated process. So how often does it occur? It is completed on a monthly basis. However, not all accounts are completed at the one time. So 1 month, it might look at superannuation accounts. The next month may be pension, and the next so on and so forth. So it's usually around about once a quarter for each, for example, super and pension. So not all reopen accounts are included in every batch run for that reopen accounts process, and we cannot choose or guarantee which accounts will be included. There are certain scenarios which exclude accounts from the automated closure process and may require manual processing. So we spoke a little bit about one of those reasons. So if we had paid previously on the original instruction was to pay to a bank account, we tried to do it again, but for whatever reason, it didn't work and the money bounced back to us. The account will then be excluded for the further automated processing. So that's one example. So it also includes, but not limited to, deceased estates. So that's a big one, so we're not going to do that. So it's outside of that scope. Deceased estates, check-based rollovers prior to the introduction of SuperStream. So SuperStream, that buzzword for electronic rollovers, the electronic movement of funds between one fund to another, all electronic. So if it's not that electronic movement of funds, it'll be paid as per a check. It is excluded from this process. Also, when a super account is transferred in full to an allocated pension account, so we spoke about that, but we've got further information coming in our session a little bit later on too. Also, if the claim was a withdrawal that was due to things like financial hardship and family law, in the current environment, a COVID-19 payment, if that had closed the account and the account reopens with tax rebates, then that's going to be excluded from this process. Also, accounts that are originally closed pre-migration to North. We're talking about Summit, iAccess, and Generations. If they closed before they moved across to North, they're excluded from this process as well. So if an account has been reopened for over 12 months, the automatic closure process, it's likely that it is unsuccessful. So if you've got accounts that have been reopened for that amount of time, please note that it's not going to work as per the automated process, and the instructions will need to be facilitated either via North Online, or you can send us information on what to do. So please action a closure via North Online or submit new instructions to the North Service Centre when required. So to exclude an account from an automated payment process, which you can do, you can action via North Online, of course. You can roll over or an account transfer, whatever you want to do before the next scheduled date. So refer to that document in news and announcements for the scheduled dates, and you would need to do that beforehand. Or alternatively, if you might be waiting on instructions from your client, waiting for that, but you don't want to risk the automated process going ahead around that time, just advise us at the North Service Centre. So email us at north@amp.com.au. So tell us, please exclude this account or this list of accounts from the reopen account process, that you're going to be actioning those on an ad hoc basis or actioning them further down the line. So when a super account is transferred in full to an allocated pension account, if the super account reopens at a later stage, there is actually an option to transfer the residual funds to an active pension. And this is only valid for allocated pension accounts, not available for non-commutable allocated pension accounts or NCAP accounts. So this can be requested for a reopen a super account, which originally commenced the active pension per business rules. So for the allocated pension account, as new funds can't be added, so remember we spoke about that at the top of our show, you can't add money to a pension once it's commenced, but in this particular circumstance, if you want that money that has come back into that reopened super account to go into the allocated pension account, then we can do that. So the residual funds will be paid to either paid to the bank account that is existing as the client's met a condition of release, although further to that, we can remove the money from that super account as a redemption, and then it will be added to the pension account as a general adjustment. So how does this actually happen? You would need to contact the North Service Centre to arrange this process. So remember, email us at north@amp.com.au. So remember, we're heading back to that based upon the original instruction, the reopen accounts process. And if that fails, then we go to paying to the bank account on file. And if that fails, the money will stay there. But you can ask for us to add the money from that reopened super account into the active allocated pension account as a general adjustment. You just need to request it with us at the North Service Centre. So what are the reasons you may need to contact the North Service Centre? There are a few situations you need to do that for assistance. That includes deceased estates, because they're not a part of that reopen accounts process. You need to contact us for that. And it's more than likely there's going to be new instructions required. Usually paid to an estate, that bank account most likely would have closed. So you need to contact us with the relevant information to make that payment. Also, we spoke about the early release of superannuation, family law situations, term allocated pensions as well. So they're not included in that process. So that is another reason you need to contact the North Service Centre in regards to reopen accounts. Accounts that were closed prior to the North migration, we spoke about that. Cheque-based rollovers, of course. So what are the requirements? So requirements include the normal North Online withdrawal requirements. So jump onto North Online, facilitate that account transfer, that withdrawal, or that. So cash withdrawals are paid to the bank account on file. So new bank details need to be added via the add or update bank account form. The client can log on to North Online, they can add their bank account details, or alternatively, you can go to North Online and locate the form to add or update bank account and send it to us at the North Service Centre, either by email, but there is that upload function. You can go into their account on North Online and upload that document. It's the fastest and easiest way for us to update and process requests for a client. So if you can't do it on North Online, that's the first step. Second step is upload the document to North Online for that bank account. And once it's there, you can then jump on North Online and facilitate your withdrawal request. So whenever you're sending us bank account details via an update form, or alternatively, you're unable to process the withdrawal request, then we would need certified identification along with those requests. That's what we've got. Standard preservation and conditions of releases apply, and account transfers can be performed to an existing open linked account or a new account if desired. If you're looking to move the money in the reopen account to another account that is not within the client's profile, then we refer to that as a cross-client account transfer, and there is an account transfer form that is available on North Online. It needs to be filled and sent to us at the North Service Centre. So rollovers can be made to any eligible regulated fund or self-managed super fund as per the normal procedure. So further to that as well, I can hear you guys through the phone and I'm going to a lot of practices, and the conversations that I have with them is that the requirements in terms of compliance don't meet a lot of stuff with North Online, and the key driver is reopen accounts. You might have had a client leave your practice for whatever reason, but the advisor is still listed as the servicing advisor on their account on North Online. So they might have rolled out, the account's reopened, and the advisor is still listed on the account. In that circumstance, I hear a lot of feedback from practices saying we need to call the client and charge them for advice to move funds, and that's fair enough, of course. However, we can facilitate that request directly with the client in that circumstance. So in that circumstance, you can direct the client to contact North, or alternatively, there is a withdrawal form that is available on North Online. Give them the form and they can arrange for all of that directly with us here at North. So let's move on to reporting and managing reopen accounts at a practice level. So how do you effectively manage all this? So if you jump onto North Online, reopen accounts, we've got advisor reporting. So you go into reporting, advisor reporting. And once you're in there, you just need to select the drop-down box and head into reopen accounts, because that report is available as the current date and the date the report is run. So it's valid for that particular date you run the report. So selecting reopen accounts, once you do that, you can then filter the report if you like by product line, or alternatively product account type as well if you want to. So once you've done that, just apply the filters. Select the desired advisor code. If you'd like, if you've got a number of different advisors within the practice, you can do that. Apply the filters, and then the report will be made for you there. So this is what the report will look like. What you can do is you can filter that report, so you can change the columns on it if you want to do that, just like that. So you can apply and reset it, and then once you've done that, you can then download the report to CSV if desired as well. So that's how you run the report for all the accounts under management, practice level, to find those reopened accounts. So further to that, what else can you do to arm yourselves for it? So you can go onto Access across the top on North Online, down to Event Alert Management. And this is where event alerts can be sent, and that is an email notification that a particular event has taken place. So these alerts are available for a number of different topics, including switches, deposits, a whole lot of different areas. Let's focus on reopen accounts, because we do actually have reopen account notification, and that provides a list of reopen accounts due to investment distributions, equity dividends, or tax rebates being received. So you would just subscribe to that. So you would just select yes, and then it defaults to monthly. So that's a really great tool for you guys out there. It'll send you a notification when the account has reopened due to those reasons like tax rebate and dividends and distributions. So now let's talk about how to effectively manage them in terms of strategies to avoid. How do you do it before it actually occurs? So there's a number of reasons where you're unable to avoid it. So if you're withdrawing from a client's account, fully withdrawing the account, then you can't avoid that. What you can avoid though is in account transfers, the timing of account transfers. So if time permits, you might be able to plan the processing of account transfers to avoid reopen accounts due to the distributions and dividends. So some accounts may be open due to tax credits. That part can't be avoided, but you can in terms of dividends and distributions, because they're allocated to the account when the asset is held in the account and at the ex-dividend or book closure date. The closed accounts are reopened to receive that distribution. By implementing a future checks prior to processing an account transfer, you can ensure that any outstanding distributions flow through to the new account or that destination account you're moving money from. So how do you do that? So for listed securities, you can check the ex-dividend date, was and is, and the date payable for each listed security. So you can do that by jumping on the ASX website. North Online doesn't hold that information. So an example of this, the client had this particular investment. The ex-dividend date was the 25th of February. The date payable for that dividend was the 15th of April. Therefore, the aim is to avoid a reopen account. You need the account transfer to be completed before the 25th of February. So before that ex-dividend date. You could, however, wait after the money is applied, of course. So two strategies: either to anticipate when the dividend will be paid, you can account transfer before that date, but if you can't make it, then you would then wait for that dividend to be allocated to the account. So hoping that all makes sense. I can see a lot of questions coming through. So that's one way of going about it for dividends. Let's talk about managed funds. Works in the same vein though. So you can refer to the managed fund investment PDS to confirm when the fund pays distributions. So that is always subject to change though, but how do you do that? You jump onto North Online, looking under investment information down to fund PDSs and profiles. Once you're there, just enter the fund name or the APIR code within it. You can choose the product line as well to find the search. Or alternatively, jumping onto Northline within your client's account. So we'll do this as an example within a client's account. We're going to go into their investment holdings, so summary investment holdings. So as you can see on your screen there, this particular example has MyNorth Index Bond Defensive Fund in it. How do we find out when this particular fund may pay that distribution? You click on it. So you click on the hyperlink for it. It'll then open up a box, and there's lots of information there for you. You've got PDSs and profiles for that particular fund, but you've importantly got distribution details. So we've got the last distribution effective date and the last date it was processed. So what I'm referring to there is when does the fund process that particular distribution? When then we receive that and then we allocate it to the account. So that last distribution process date is the date it's allocated to the fund. it is allocated to the account to the effective date. So further to that though, looking at the next estimated distribution date. So you can look at that date and say, okay, I'll facilitate my account transfer before that date. But if you don't do that, and have a look at the difference between the last distribution effective date and the last process date, and have a look at the timing in between, because it's going to be similar for that new estimated distribution as well. You can manage those. So to locate paid distributions and dividends, so how do you find those on North Online? You go into the account, so heading back into the account again, under transaction history this time. Once you've done that, define the search by date range if desired. Leave the investment as cash account, because that is more than likely where the money will be paid. Not all dividends and distributions are paid into the cash account. If you've got a dividend reinvestment program, we paid back into the equity. And some managed funds pay them as units back into the managed fund, but most are paid as cash. So you leave it as cash, depending on the particular fund or equity, and then select the drop-down box to locate the transaction type and choosing distribution. Once you've done that, hit search, and then it'll show the dividends and distributions. So we've got the cash distributions as well as that managed funds distribution as well listed. So we spoke about a lot today. We spoke about the automated process. We spoke about how that all works, why reopen accounts occur, how you can effectively manage these, and strategies to avoid if possible. So please keep your questions coming, and we will keep this webinar open for a couple minutes more for you to be able to make your questions. I know we've got a big list of questions, so if you haven't received an answer back, we will get back to you upon the conclusion of today's session. And again, we're going to collate these questions asked with their answers and email these out to everybody in the next couple of days, along with this pack as well. And this webinar, of course, will be recorded and uploaded to North Online for you to refer to again, or refer a colleague if you'd like. We'd ask that if you can, please stay tuned to North Online news and announcements for upcoming webinars and for pivotal information as it comes to hand on reopen accounts. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and we hope that we've armed you with some of the hints and tips on reopen accounts. We look forward to seeing you all soon in our next webinar. From now, bye from me. I'll speak to you very soon.